Here's another Dollar Tree to Me video, and I've used these items to make a good 4th of July or nautical outfit. I started with the scarf and laid down my pattern, which is available on Etsy. I made sure I had one of the little anchors on the front, kind of centered. There was a flaw in the Dollar Tree item, so I tried to avoid that. And I also laid the back of the bodice and tried to center one of the anchors. And if you've seen many of my videos, you know that I sew before I cut the fabric. Okay, I've sewn where I'm pointing and all the way around except for the very bottom. Okay, I've sewn the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm clipping all the curves. You don't really have to clip the corners this time. This fabric is really thin. And you clip as close to the thread as you can get without clipping the thread. I did zigzag the bottom part, but since you're closing the bottom of the bodice, you really don't have to do that. So here I go, turning it to the right side. And this fabric is so fragile, you have to be really careful, the scarf fabric. And I'm going to take my knitting needle, and you'll see me trying to be careful, but as I push the corners out, and I didn't mean to do that, but I did poke a little hole in the scarf fabric. If you do that, just take some fray check and dab it on that hole, or you can just pull the threads back together with some manipulation. If you're lucky enough to have a serger, use that to close the bottom of the bodice. If you don't have a serger, use a zigzag stitch. I'm using an easy closure. You see me tying a knot at the end of the ribbon, and I heat sealed both ends of the ribbon. And I'm hand sewing it to the shoulders of the front and the back. And you just need a few stitches, maybe 2 or 3, and then tie off your thread. Try the top on your doll to make sure it fits. You can put a little square of Velcro there, or you can just hand sew it, but make sure that it will be able to slide down the hips of the doll. And you might have to adjust. I think my overlap was about 1/4 of an inch on either side, and you see that it easily slides down her hips. This fabric, the scarf fabric, is a bear to sew. I tried to sew it on the machine, the skirt part, and I just finally had to resort to putting in a good movie and doing all the little squares by hand. I attached 7 little squares to the bodice, and you see that a point of it lapped over. I sewed the right sides together. There I'm showing you the little triangles that overlapped. I wanted striped pants to go with this top, and I could not find any striped fabric at the Dollar Tree, so I used white acrylic paint and a fabric medium, mixed those together and made my own stripes. And I knew if I tried to make perfect stripes that it just would not happen. So I made just intentionally watercolor looking stripes. I wanted the knit capris to be tighter than the pattern, so I marked a 3/8 seam allowance. I'm sorry to toot my own horn, but this is adorable. Now I do have how to sew the pants on another video, and I'll link that in the description box. Stay tuned, see how I make flip-flops. To make the doll flip-flops, I've provided a pattern along with the pants and the top. You need the ribbon, and you need an awl, AWL, or something sharp and pointed. I decided to use a thinner ribbon. I folded the ribbon and pushed it through and tied a knot on the back. Then I put the ponytail tie on both ribbons. You'll see why in a later clip. I pulled the other 2 halves of the ribbon through to the back side and put it on my doll just to test how long I needed those ribbons. I'm going to tie knots on those 2 ends. I've taken another piece of ribbon and tied a bow at the toe part of the shoe. And I've heat sealed the ends of that ribbon. And I'll probably put a few little hand stitches to hold it. And if you want to wrap that thicker ribbon around the edge of the shoe just to finish, give it a nice finish, you can do that. And this is where you pull the 2 parts of the ponytail tie and put it around the heel of the doll. Mommy might help putting on these little flip-flops. They were a bit tight, but once again, thanks for watching.